The first meal sets the day, and most of us just get up in the morning, grab some coffee, get moving, tell themselves, "I'll eat later," or not even think about it. Later turns into 10:30, then noon. Then by 2 or 3 in the afternoon, we feel off. Not just hunger, we feel a little shaky, irritable, maybe we're having headaches. Maybe they start looking for something sweet or salty. Then by night, they feel like they can't stop thinking about food. And what usually gets blamed is discipline. But most of the time, that's not the real issue. We already talked this season about the body responding to overload, about hunger being a signal, and about willpower running low when the day gets heavy. Today, I want to show you where a lot of that starts. It starts within the first few hours of the day. The first meal matters most, more than people realize, not because breakfast is magical, not because everybody needs the same exact breakfast, not because eating at 7 a.m. or 5 a.m. makes you a better person. It matters because the way your body starts the day. I had a patient a while back who said something simple, but told me everything I needed to know. She said, "Coffee gets me through the day, and I have no appetite in the morning, and I don't feel like consuming anything. I feel nauseous. And by afternoon, I want everything." That is such a common American sentence now. If you look at the other side of the world, most people have bigger breakfast or a bigger lunch. And that makes sense. It's all about our lifestyle, the routine that we live in. Mornings are rushed here. Parents are getting kids out the door. People are sitting in traffic, answering texts, checking emails, dealing with life before the day has even started. So coffee becomes the first thing that hits the system, or tea. And food becomes something we hope to get later. The problem is your body and your mind notices that. That's why so many people feel wired in the morning, but not truly steady. Coffee can make you feel awake, it cannot replace fuel. And that difference matters. A simple way to think about this is coffee on an empty stomach or empty system is like pressing the gas pedal when the tank is already low. The car may move for a while, but it's really not moving that well. And eventually, the whole system starts asking for something more solid. That's where the crash comes in, what people call the afternoon crash. Usually, it didn't start in the afternoon, it started in the morning when the body was asked to perform without any support. The brain depends on stable fuel. A lot of the cravings people find later in the day are not random. They're often delayed consequences of how the day started. And we keep repeating the cycle over and over again without noticing these things. When I say the first meal sets the day, I'm not trying to make it sound dramatic. I mean, in a very practical sense. That first meal tells your body one of two things. Either it tells you, your body, you're safe, fuel is coming, you do not need to panic later. Or it tells your body, we're improvising again, stay alert, stay ready, we'll figure it out. The body behaves differently depending on which message it gets. And this is where protein becomes a big deal. Protein helps stabilize the day. It helps reduce the speed at which hunger comes back. It supports muscle, yes, but it also supports the fullness and steadier energy levels. It also upregulates GLP, which can eventually improve metabolism indirectly. When people eat enough protein earlier in the day, they often don't feel the same desperate pull towards snacks later. That doesn't mean you need a big giant breakfast. It just means the first meal should actually count. A lot of my patients will do a protein shake with caffeine. That works. It's better than nothing. Eggs count, Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, leftovers, a protein smoothie. I don't care if it's chicken in the morning. Even a simple breakfast sandwich can be better than coffee and our cortisol rising from stress. The point is not perfection. The point is sending a real signal. And I also want to say this because a lot of people feel confused about it. Not everybody wakes up hungry. How can you? Say if you overeat at night, we have a full hormone called leptin that tells your brain, hey, don't eat in the morning, or caffeine can also suppress that appetite. And if we keep repeating the cycle, of course, we'll never wake up in the morning hungry. That does not mean the first meal doesn't matter. Sometimes people tell me, I'm just not a breakfast person. And then all of a sudden they change their routine. They start waking up hungry for breakfast, which is a good thing. And sometimes that's true in the sense that their appetite is lower in the morning. But a lot of the time, what really is happening is that your body adapted to this chaos. It's used to getting coffee first. It got used to late night eating. It got used to the stress being the first thing that carries in the morning. So now hunger shows up later, louder, and more urgently. That's not your body being weird. That's your body learning a pattern, and patterns can be changed. If someone truly doesn't feel like eating a full breakfast, I'm not trying to force a huge meal down their throat. Start smaller. Have half a yogurt, half a protein shake, or a full protein shake, one egg, and a piece of toast. Something simple, something repeatable, reasonable around your lifestyle, something that tells your body, we're not skipping again today. And that's usually where people start seeing change. They don't suddenly become a different person. They just stop starting the day in debt. And that debt matters more than people think. This is why I keep saying this season that health is really about routine and rhythm. It's about eating regularly, sleeping enough, moving your body, and giving yourself actual rest and being mindful. When those basics are steady, everything feels easier. When they're off, everything is hard. The first meal is one of the clearest rhythm signals that you can give your body. It doesn't have to be an Instagram or TikTok worthy meal. It doesn't have to be organic, color coded, aesthetic. It just has to be real enough to count for your body. Doctors, nurses, teachers, parents, business owners, drivers, anyone who says some version of I'll eat later, I get it. Life does not always cooperate around your schedule. But think of it this way. You're able to get coffee in the morning. Why can't you have a meal? Or why can't you have a shake with that coffee? It's all our mind. It's our routine. But the body still responds. And I've seen this with patients, myself, over and over again. The person who thinks that they need more caffeine than breakfast to have more energy levels. The person who thinks that they have no willpower at night is often just because they're underfueled by noon. The person who says they're always tired, sometimes not sleeping enough, yes, but they're also not sending their system steadiness starting from the morning. And once that first meal changes, a lot of the things downstream start changing too. Energy gets smoother, cravings often soften, mood gets less sharp. People stop feeling hangry. They don't feel like they need to white knuckle their afternoons every day. That's not because breakfast fixed their whole life. It's because the body finally got the clear signal early enough to do something with it. Now, I also want to make this practical for people whose schedules are not normal. If you work nights, your first meal still matters. It just matters based on the time you wake up, not what the clock says. If your morning starts at 4 p.m., because you're going into night shift, then your first meal after waking is still your first signal of the day. This is not about worshiping a traditional breakfast window. It's about respecting the body's first need for fuel after waking. And if you're a parent, and this is where I'll say something that comes up at home a lot too. Sometimes the easiest move is just to eat when your kids eat. If you're making food for them anyway, sit down and have something too. It doesn't have to be big, it doesn't have to be fancy. If you don't take care of the first meal, the day usually takes it from you. So, what does a good first meal do? It calms the cortisol level spikes in the morning instead of stacking up more stress on top of it. It gives the brain real fuel instead of borrowed energy. It makes blood sugar levels more stable. which can indirectly improve your metabolic rate. It makes later hunger feel more normal instead of urgent. It gives you a better shot at making calm decisions in the afternoon. That's why I tell patients all the time the first meal is not just food, it's a message, and the body is always listening. Now, is breakfast the only thing that matters? Of course not. Sleep matters, hydration, stress matters, protein across the day matters. But if you keep starting the day with caffeine, chaos, and no fuel, you keep setting your body up for failure to recover later instead of functioning well at that moment. And a lot of people live like that for years. I did that for past maybe 20 years. Then I started eating like my son, who eats every morning. Then people start also thinking they're lazy, they're weak, or they have some kind of special problem with food. No, a lot of the time, they just started the day behind. So if someone listening wants one practical shift from this episode, it's this. Tomorrow, or if you listen in the morning, eat something right away or within the hour of waking. Add some protein. Keep it simple enough that you can actually repeat it. Don't make it a project. Don't make it complicated. Make it a signal and part of your routine. Then watch what happens, not just with hunger, but with your mood, your focus, your afternoon energy. Because a lot of people do not need a more extreme plan. They need a steadier morning. And that takes us right into the next episode. Because once the first meal starts changing the day, the next thing people usually notice is what happens at night. Why the cravings are hitting low. Why the cravings hit harder at night. Why dinner feels frantic. Why so many people feel out of control after the sun goes down. That's what we'll unpack next in episode 7. We're going to talk about why night eating happens or night cravings. I'll see you there.